Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and welcome to this half hour with Stranger Things. Please join me in welcoming today's guests. We have creator, director, writers Ross Duffer and Matt Duffer, music supervisor Nora Felder, VFX supervisor Paul Graff, supervising sound editor and re-recording mixer Craig Henighan, stunt coordinator Hiro Koda, and editor Dean Zimmerman. And before we get into it, we're going to take a look at a clip from season 3 of the show.
What's the My Little Pony thesis?
Don't get him started.
Get him started, just tell him.
Hey guys.
Griswold family, this is Scoop Troop. Do you copy? Over.
Griswold family, I repeat, this is Scoop Troop. Do you copy?
Griswold family, do you copy?
Do you copy? Griswold family, this is Scoop Troop. Please confirm for safety. Griswold family, this is Scoop Troop. Please confirm for safety. Are you on route to all legal steps? Please confirm for safety. On route to all legal steps. Please confirm for safety. Someone please detect her. Anyone there? Anyone please? Griswold family, do you copy? Griswold family, do you copy? Do you copy?
Where are you going?
Get them the hell out of there! Stay here! Contact the others!
Shit.
Wait, Robin. Stay in touch.
Got it.
Bald Eagle, this is Scoop Troop. What's your 20?
I told you, radio silence!
Yeah, but we have a problem.
What kind of problem?
It's turned away. If we go up the stairs now, we'll make it.
No way, not with those lights.
We have to try.
There's another way to get out. Through the gap.
Okay. Now.
Truly a fantastic third season. This show has been such a sensation from the start. I think everyone watches it, but just in case, Ross and Matt, what would you say to someone who, maybe wasn't familiar with the show to get them interested in checking it out? How would you sort of describe this?
Matt, you want to take?
Yeah. How would I describe it? I don't, I mean, like the thing at least, ultimately at the very beginning, we wrote the show specifically to appeal to our interest and the type of thing that we wanted to see. We wanted to see, it was our dream show, the idea of something that felt like a adaptation of a Stephen King book as directed by Spielberg. That was sort of our guiding light, I suppose. And we felt like, the type of very cinematic stories and cinematic storytelling that was happening on TV, like really, really excited us and drew us into that. But to us, I think, you know, the appeal of the show and why it, you know, it surprisingly had a wider appeal, I think, than we ever expected it would, is because we have, you know, often 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours to tell the story. We get to, there's so many genres we get to fold into this story. So season 3, like that clip is, you know, like a scary Jurassic Park monster sequence, but it's also probably like, you know, has the most comedy of any season we've had so far, probably the most romance of any season so far. So we get to, you know, even if you know, if you're turned off by the monsters or you're turned off by the kids, there's a little bit of everything, and we get to explore, you know, not just multiple genres, but different, you know, 3 different age groups. We have kids who are no longer really kids, and then the teenagers and adults. So it's just a show that has a little bit of everything, and that's why we never get bored working on it or writing it.
And season 3 saw a lot of these new changes. We had Starcourt Mall opening in Hawkins.
Right.
We saw a new monster, along with sort of the shifting relationships between your cast members. I'm sort of curious for each of you going into season 3, like, what did you sort of anticipate would be the biggest challenges? We can start with Paul.
I'm happy to start because I think it ties into what you guys were saying. It's like, for me, Stranger Things, I'm not the Duffers, but it is all Duffers. Like, it's Duffers front, right, left, and center everywhere. It all comes from those 2 guys, and it's really a sandbox. I knew season 2 was kind of like a creative hurricane, and so season 3, all I knew going into season 3, it's not going to be anything that we did. Throw everything, clean the table, throw everything away. We're going to do. We're going to play with the new toy. It's going to be something unpredictable and different. And whatever we did last time, this time we're going to do something different, because I think that's why they are in for it. They're in it because, like, every season they kind of get to play and experiment with the new explosive, so to speak. See what that does. And it felt to me like we had the monster that was sort of ethereal. In the previous season was like this big, dark, haunting, dreamy shadow, and now we have a stomping monster. Like, what if we add weight? What if we add blood? And like, it's like in every direction. It feels, it's kind of a creative. It's like they are really like the kids, you know. Like, it's all the AV club. Literally, the AV club is sitting right here. That's the AV club. They're coming up with something new, and you can't go into this and expect, oh, we figured this out. We're going to do more spores like last year with whatever. Last year was spores and upside down. This year, there was not even one scene upside down. It's like, it's every time the one thing you can count on is not going to be whatever it was last time. It's going to be something different this time. And that's the challenge. And that's the fun of it, really, for me.
Nora, what about for you?
I can't really, I think of a challenge other than the challenge that I might personally put on myself, maybe. I mean, each year, you know, to me, the show just keeps getting bigger and better. And like, even everyone here on this panel and who works on the show, they really deliver to make it be the best it can be. So, and also I think because it's resonated so much with the world, and I think that as the viewers wait in between seasons, they're expecting it to be bigger and better. So I think that for me, that I use my anxiety in that to kind of drive me to, you know, just push myself and apply that pressure to force myself, to force the green monster in my mind to kind of, you know, enhance this amazing story and that monster. Can you tell I go to therapy? No, I'm just kidding. I don't go to therapy. But yeah, so that's the challenge. It's the challenges I apply to myself, I guess.
Dean, what about for you?
Yeah, listen, so I took a break on season 2, so I came back for season 3, and I read, obviously, this, still being a huge fan, obviously, but when I read all the scripts on season 3, my first initial response was, okay, so we're going to do 9 humongous visual effects features in the span it's going to take me to do 1 visual effects huge movie. So the task was really more of the language we knew, the Duffers, I'm in their head. I kind of got what I need to do. For me, the bigger challenge was, and it wasn't necessarily a challenge, it was just how we all work together, which is this harmonious synchronicity of being able to identify the visual effects shots, get them into the pipeline early so that we can really kind of fine tune and hone it when the Duffers are done shooting all the episodes and come back into the office.
And Hiro, for you?
I was new to season 3. I didn't do the first 2 seasons. So coming on to season 3 was all brand new for me. I was a big fan of the show already. Matt and Ross challenged me every day for everything that they threw at me. And, it was we got to create some wild and crazy rigs for these monsters that Paul and you guys were making, and trying to figure out how we were going to make all this stuff work. And, it was really rewarding to be there on set when we don't actually have these monsters there. You have like Matt and Ross playing this incredible music, and they get the vibe going, and they get everybody into it, even the crew's into it. You like believe the monsters are there. So it was an incredible experience to be a part of.
Craig, for you?
Yeah, I think, the challenges started for me, Matt and Ross and I had a little bit of a round table at the end of season 2. And I always remember Matt saying, think about gore, think about blood and those sort of, so I kind of, and that was months before I'd seen anything for season 3. So that was just sort of always percolating. And then one of the first sequences I worked on was episode 301 with all the rats exploding.
Oof.
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, we're doing sort of rats exploding. So the challenge for me was, one of the challenges anyways, was the monsters, really, like coming up with new ideas for vocalizations and character sort of development of the both monsters, and at the time I didn't know that the one monster was actually going to turn into a bigger guy. So I didn't want to back myself into a corner too much, but the idea was to have this sort of thread that was a little bit familiar from season 1 and season 2, but sort of just turbocharged into the mind flare, and just how angry he was, and just being able to use full out giant roars and like using fun stuff with distortion and other sort of types of sounds just to make him really feel alive and vibrant, because visually he was just so awesome looking, that it was like it needed a vocal and a character that really complemented the visual.
Can I ask a question I've always been curious about sound? Are there times when you just get in front of a microphone and start making noises?
All the time. That's
that.
pretty much a lot of the growling and gurgling you hear of him in the mall. That's actually my voice manipulated. Yeah, it's my voice manipulated through different sort of processing and pitching and programs, and then I augment that with roars and different types of animal types things. So it's always sort of this cross between two things. But I feel with my own voice, I can get a performance. I can actually get something out of there that I could search forever through animal vocals and animal roars and stuff, but would never find something that I could just do quickly by grabbing a microphone, processing in a certain way, and sort of just developing it from there.
What are some of the animals you use? I feel like maybe there's a lion in there.
Yeah, a little bit of a lion. There's always the big guys, right? So when you want, when the mind flare is really aggressive and, the big roars from the animal kingdom, right? So lions and tigers are big ones, black bears, anything like that you can kind of pitch down a little bit is really good. Some elephant stuff is in there. And then there's also things like, stuff that you wouldn't think of, like dry ice, squeals and squeaks that you pitch down. There's, I don't know if I use them in the mind flare, but I've used stuff where I've taken baby cries, like human baby cries, and pitched them really, really, really low. And then you look for like the middle section of a sound, you go, oh, I can steal that. And that sort of becomes the hook for what the monster sort of can kind of become.
That's really cool. And Matt and Ross, I wonder if you're the sort of people who, get a little freaked out by your own success. You had 2 great seasons. Going into the 3rd one, is there a little bit of nervousness? Do you feel like, you're up against this own literal and figurative monster you've created?
That's certainly always the case. And at a certain point, when a season comes out, we do, and the writers and everyone involved, we do look at reactions, but at a certain point, you do try to just block it all out and just sort of our rule of thumb is let's just tell something that we're excited about and just sort of pretend like none of that outside noise exists. And that's really sort of been our driving force, because that's really what happened, how we made the show in season 1. It was really Matt and I just going, what if we could make any show in the world, what would it be? And this is the version of that we came up with. So it's trying to keep that excitement. And that's one reason too, we keep changing it up, like Matt said, in that we like to adjust the tone and sort of what we're trying to achieve from season to season, because it keeps us excited. And the hope is that if we're excited, then, you know, we can get everyone else excited. And I do think that sort of passion that, you know, particularly, you know, all the people that are on this screen, you can feel it come across the screen. So that's really the drive from season to season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And I mean, you know, just to elaborate on that, it's just trying to, as much as possible, shut out all the noise. But that was true, like Ross was saying, with season 1. I mean, there was, you know, I mean, we had a lot of trouble kind of breaking into Hollywood and having a hit, because a lot of times we were listening to what people were saying that they wanted. And this is industry wide. And it was only when we sort of ignored that and listened to sort of more really what we wanted. I mean, when we were initially trying to sell the show, people were saying, you know, it's got to be just a cop show, you know, shows with kids don't sell. I mean, you're hearing all this stuff about all the reasons why it doesn't work. And to some extent, it's the same here in terms of, you know, you have all these voices, all these people who have opinions of where the show should go. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to, you know, me, Ross, and like 5 other nerds, like Paul was saying, like an AV club, sitting down and going like, what do we want to see? And then we go, and then we don't worry too much about pulling it off. And then we bring in all of these geniuses here to help us figure it out. And it's like every season, you know, Dean touched on this, but it's like, it feels like, and Game of Thrones kept raising the bar for us. So like, I mean, I love the challenge of it, but it was like, oh my God, you know, I mean, this looks like the kind of stuff you'd see in a movie theater in the summer. But we don't have the schedule either in production, pre-production, production, or post-production that a summer movie would have. I mean, not even close. And like, so these mixes, like the edits are very complicated. The mixes that Craig are doing, like it's so dense and they have so little time to do it. Paul with VFX, I mean, those scripts are coming in like that monster sequence. Maybe it was like a month ahead of time that you got it. Yeah, I mean, normally a movie would have 6 months or a year to fine tune a sequence like that. And so I think that's the biggest challenge of the show. It's like, so we get something that we're excited about. It's like, but then how do we pull this off with the kind of quality that we all kind of are hoping for? And the only way we're able to do that is with this incredible team, you know?
And Nora, I am so fascinated by the position of music supervisor. How do you sort of work with the Duffer brothers? I don't know if you're able to start imagining things just by looking at the scripts, or if you kind of have to wait until everything has been shot. Where do you even begin?
So we do have a budget, as every department does. So we can't, you know, kind of use a lot of big songs for all the episodes. So I try and spend a lot of extra time trying to kind of climb under rocks and look for perhaps the bands that were good, but for one reason or another didn't necessarily make it, you know, during the time. So, and I plowed through a lot of that music, and mind you, there's quite a few artists that there's a reason that they didn't make it during that time. But I get really excited when I'm doing my search, because we do actually find things that, you know, I do find things that I think were pretty good. And and it's great that we're able to induce them into the show. And also, I got to say, you know, sidebar, it's really exciting when you hear about some of those indie bands that are selected for the show, and they've gone on and they're going on these little tours, or their songs are selling really well, and they're having this kind of, I can't even say resurgence, because they didn't have it then, and people are paying attention to them now. So yeah, it's just a lot of pre-research, getting my mind prepared for it. And then as the scripts start coming in, you know, as the Duffers start forming their ideas, as, you know, the footage starts coming in, then it's a matter of us all working together, having a lot of the music on hand for example, for Dean, and just we all jump in and, you know, start doing our thing.
Who had the idea to play American Pie over a scene where the parents are getting assaulted by their children?
Well, that actually, I did come up with that idea. I think the directive was to find something that didn't sort of tip the hat to what was going to happen. And with that song, not to go into the whole story, so I was kind of racking my brain, trying to come up with ideas, what's a song? And then I remembered that when I was really young, my parents used to play Don McLean American Pie over and over. I think my dad had the 45 of it. And I was so little, I just thought it was like this upbeat, catchy rhythm. It was this upbeat rhythm and catchy lyrics. And when actuality, I don't know if everybody knows this, but it's actually about the day the music died, which was a plane crash with Buddy Holly and Richie Valens and a couple other greats. So when I was listening to it as a little kid, I thought, oh, it's this catchy, fun song, and I have no idea what the lyrics mean, but it's actually about a very dark part in music history. So I don't know why, but it just popped in my head, and I tried it to the footage, and it just seemed to line up. It was kismet. It just kind of hit all the moments.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Great.
Yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things. And it worked out.
Oh, so, I'll say.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the monster. Craig, or actually, let's start with Paul, because the visual effects seem to get bigger every season. And this monster really kind of evolved throughout the season. Can you talk about sort of designing the different phases of it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, I was thinking about this a few days ago for a different interview, and I really do think evolution is really the key word a keyword for Stranger Things. I think episodes evolve, like the story evolves. It's really, like, what I'm particularly proud of is that it's non-repetitive. Everything goes, it's like every episode escalates over the previous episode. It's like this crescendo built in every season, and every season kind of goes in a different way. And it's like, in a way, they're throwing something at you, and you just know, let's see how we're going to do this. And then so on the one end of the spectrum was the exploding rats. And then on the other end of the spectrum was the monster in the mall. So those two were like basically project. And then there was the Russian gun. So these three were like, go, right? Let's figure this out. Let's start working on this. And really quickly, we knew we couldn't really work with real rats. So our life depended on photoreal rats. So we had to get rats, because there was just like nothing. It was not going to happen to have trained rats or anything that could do anything complicated enough for this show. So we had to basically bet the farm on getting good rats, and then work out the explosion and the liquefaction of everything. And the other thing is, like, what does the monster look like? And our genius Michael Marr did a concept of the monster in the mall with all the tentacles out, so that we had basically an image of the monster that was built for the mall. And it's like, for me, it was always a T-Rex. It's essentially a dinosaur, right? And so we finally get to do our dinosaur. Then we did motion tests, and when we started, this monster started moving. It looked really silly with all the tentacles flying around. It looked like a Team America, the special symbol. Like, it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all what we needed. So we figured it's basically two monsters. There's the monster that's sort of like the platform, the aircraft carrier, and it's heavy, and it's a big stomping dinosaur. And then it has the tentacles, and it's like basically the platform stops, and then the tentacles come out, and it's like a whole nother actually bunch of beings that live off of this platform, so to speak. So that it's really just roll with the punches. That's the whole program. Roll with the punches. Try to be as wide angle as possible for as long as possible with the options that we have, and at the same time get as close as possible ideas on paper. This is how this could fly, you know, and so by the time we're shooting, we know what to shoot. That nobody's like, oh, what are we going to do, right? But at the same time, it needs to be really kind of alive. Like, this thing needs to be alive, and it needs to happen on the day. Like, remember when we killed Bob, you know?
Spoiler alert for anyone at home.
chapter that for me that was like every season I'm learning something, and like like last season I learned interactivity, like how important interactivity is. And when we killed Bobs and we had like these amazing shots from one of our writers who was like laying into him, killing him basically, I realized like we need to have something like that. That's what we need. We need on set like somebody with the soul who can like really act this thing. And we had Ken from the stunt department, who I primed him for like months that he was gonna have to go out with like this hideous red spandex suit and the silver ball on his head, and he shocked the whole crew. Like everybody, like lights went out, monster came out, he was there, primordial scream from like some kind of Kubrick Russian space monster that was screaming, and everybody was quiet. No, there was like no sound. Like you could hear a pencil drop when he did this in chapter 6. So that's basically what we had. Like be as prepared as possible and be as flexible as possible, and just like kind of ride the hurrine.
I mean, speaking of these stunts, it's full of so many battles, and you have people and cars flying around. And Hiro, I'm sort of curious, what's it like working with a cast of young actors on these physically demanding scenes?
It's always a challenge working with kids. There's so many different rules you have to go by, and what they're able to perform themselves. And all of the kids are so game. They love to come out and play with the stunt team. And so as soon as they get any kind of action, they love to come out and be a part of what we're doing. And during prep, I mean, these guys give us such a great time to like get things prepped. If there's something that I really need to rehearse, they give us that time. And so I'm able to bring those guys in, and it's like all these different beautiful sets that we were on, and huge sets that we were on. It's like a stuntman's playground. So it was something for all of us to just have a good time with. The kids they're game for everything and want to do as much as they can. And I push them to their comfort levels, and we get what we can out of them. And, you know, like I said, Matt and Ross challenge me every day with stuff with these guys, and everybody. I mean, everybody in the cast is just different, and they all have their own personalities that they bring with it, and what we have to deal with as far as what their action is. And so it's
they all wanted to fight. That was the thing.
Yeah,
I don't know, like Finn, they all became obsessed with being in fights and getting hurt. Like Finn's big thing is like, I want to get hurt really bad.
I want to get smashed. Yeah.
Yeah. He designed that moment where he got thrown into the metal pipe. But luckily they're not like tiny. It was harder when they were tiny.
Yeah.
Like, so now at least you can have, you know, we can have like adult stuntmen double,
right.
Like, you know, like Millie's double was amazing. Like she was amazing. And I mean, you could almost shoot her in close up and you wouldn't know. They looked so much alike, but I don't know how old she was, you know, but
she's in her mid-20s, new to the business, but she was a great double for Millie. It was awesome. That's a huge thing for me, is just to bring in all these people that, like, I want to get people the doubles that I bring in, they got to look as close as they can to these actors, so that when we're shooting, I mean, it's their job to perform and to be these actors. So they have to study what the actors are doing, how they move, how they act, all of that. They have to kind of put that into their performance when they're doing their action.
We actually have an audience question, and it's for Dean. People want to know, you have so many storylines and yet we're able to keep up. How do you blend this humor and drama and keep the audience tracking along with the story?
I mean, it's all the Duffers, right? It all's what's written on the page. And the one really unique thing that happens a lot, especially in post, is on a lot of stuff that a lot of us do. You know, there's lots of times change, but Matt and Ross's scripts are so tight and they're so like engineered perfectly that there's very little variance on it. And so as far as like keeping the storylines together, that's all them. For me, the big challenge is to, you know, inject comedy as much as I can and try to keep the pace moving as quickly as it needs to, but also breathe in the spots where it needs to. And that's the big challenge. Editorial is the pacing and really trying to keep the audience engaged at the edge of their seat, and then let them relax in times that we want to, so that we can, you know, hit them really hard with something scary or whatever it may be. And it's definitely a balance that we hone a lot in post. And the blessing that we have is that the guys love to be in there. We love to have them in there, and that's my sandbox. Like, I just love to be able to play for hours and hours and hours and sit in there for 12 hours a day and just burn these guys out and go, wait a minute, we're just getting started. We got to go home. We're done. So that's for us. It's to be able to have that opportunity is the best.
Well, thank you for those moments of relief. I appreciate them. And I want to thank Netflix and all our speakers for talking with us today. And to all of you, thank you for watching us or listening to us from wherever you are. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
That was great.